Now, let's move to our next invited speaker, Nadine Zeinoun, President ICF Chapter Ottawa Master, Certified Coach Facilitator, St. Joseph University, Lebanon. Her expertise includes executive coaching and leadership development, professional coaching and organizational transformation, leadership strategy and personal effectiveness, emotional intelligence, and performance coaching. Her today's topic is emotional intelligence. With that, let's welcome Nadine Zinon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to start by sharing my slides, so just let me know when you see the slides. Can you all see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. I'm very happy to be here and to talk about a topic that means a lot to me, which is emotional intelligence. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is emotional intelligence or why is it important? So I'm just going to start by a small story about someone we all know, and I'm pretty sure we all look up to, who is Steve Jobs. So we all know Steve Jobs, and we all know that he was a visionary. He was a brilliant person. He was very driven, and he was deeply passionate about excellence and about what he does and what his team did. At the same time, there was another side to Steve Jobs. I don't know if you all know about this side, but he was explosive. He had explosive emotional reactions. He lashed out at team members at many times. He publicly criticized people and employees, and he even fired people in just the rush of the moment, in the spur of the moment, rash decisions he would make and just throw people out of the company. So this is the other side of Steve Jobs. And that's why this behavior that he had, although he was so driven and so smart and such a visionary, people were afraid of him. So he created fear inside the team. And many people felt burnt out. They couldn't speak up. They were afraid to speak up, but they would work hard and they were forced to work. So they would burn out. They disengaged because that's what fear creates. It makes us disengaged and not happy to work. And even in his personal relationships with his friend, who was a co-founder with him in the company, his relationships were not good. And that co-founder, who was the CEO at the time, he made him leave the company. So he was forced out of his own company, one of a company that he co-founded in 1985, because of this emotional driven reactions, if you want. So what does that mean? What happened to Steve Jobs is that he had the technical brilliance. He was amazing. He was really smart, really sharp. He had the vision, he had the innovation, which our keynote speaker just talked about, which was very important, of course. But what he lacked was emotional intelligence, and specifically self-regulation, which is part of emotional intelligence, and relational awareness. So he wasn't good in picking up the vibes that are happening in the room, and he didn't know how to relate to people in a deep way. So he lacked emotional intelligence. And this just shows us that no matter how brilliant we are at an intellectual level, it's not enough if we want to succeed in our careers, if we want to grow, if we want to win people's attention, if we want to grow our careers. We need to be emotionally intelligent as well as regular, IQ. So EQ is as important, and it's even more important than IQ, and I'll show you in a minute. So emotional intelligence, what is it? It is about understanding the root causes of our emotions. So understanding, why am I behaving in this way? What is happening to me inside? What is the emotion that is driving this particular decision or this particular behavior, or maybe the way I'm connecting with people? So emotions drive all of this together. They drive our decisions, they drive our relationships, they drive the way we behave, and all of this impacts our success. So emotional intelligence is about understanding what is happening in me that is causing me to behave in this way, so that if I want to change the behavior, I need to go into emotional intelligence and understand that. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So, and now there's plenty of research, even more than these. I just put a few here that shows that people who are emotionally intelligent are more successful in the workplace and in their lives. And actually, EQ correlates to around 45 to 70% of your success in the business world, whereas the IQ only correlates with a very low 18% of your success. So very high correlation with emotional intelligence, which just tells us that, especially when we grow in the organization. So the higher up you are, the more emotional intelligence you need, the less technical you get. So this is just to show you that it is important to work on your emotional intelligence, especially, even Fortune 500 companies, they now promote it as a way to develop people. So in order to understand why do we behave that, why are emotions so important, let's look at the neuroscience of emotions. So I'm personally a pharmacologist initially, so I do like to look at the science behind things, and we go back to the brain. It all goes back to the brain. So how does the brain function and cause that emotional reaction? So I just want you to know that we have 6 different brains, and one of them is the prefrontal cortex, which is the green part in the figure, and this is the area that is behind our forehead. So this prefrontal cortex is very important. Why? Because it is responsible for executive functioning. So if I want to think critically, if I want to solve problems, if I want to make decisions, have good judgment, if I want to connect with people through empathy, I need this area of my brain to be active and vibrant and working efficiently. Now, at the same time, I have a different part of the brain, which is the primitive brain, at the back of my head. And that part of the brain is responsible for my survival. So what does it mean for my survival? So the main focus of my primitive brain is to allow me to survive when there is threat around me so that I can continue to live. And how does this go about? It goes about using the emotions. So the limbic brain, which is the area of emotions that is like here behind our ears, let's say. So this limbic brain, it has a small part which is called the amygdala. This amygdala is like a sensor. It's always, looking in our environment. It's sensing our environment. It's sensing every single change that's happening in our environment. And it's making a decision whether this thing that is happening is a threat to us or not. So if it sees it as a threat, and I say it sees it, so it perceives it, it doesn't have to be an actual threat, but it may be, a bad look that Amrit gave me, for example. So Amrit looked at me in a way that I didn't understand. My brain, when it doesn't understand, why did she look at me this way? It senses it as a threat. So every time I sense a threat, or my limbic brain senses a threat through the amygdala, it fires. And when it fires, it creates a hormone called cortisol. And once the cortisol is high in my brain, what happens is I feel fear. And that fear and that cortisol, it activates my primitive brain. So it allows me to defend myself against the threat. And I do that either by fighting the threat, running away. Sometimes people freeze when this happens. And most importantly, what I want you to know is when I feel threatened, like the people who were working with Steve Jobs, they felt fear towards him. Their prefrontal cortex is closed down, shuts down. So they cannot access all these beautiful things that we talked about at the start. They cannot access their higher level thinking, their innovation, their creativity, their decision making. So they won't be as sharp as they could be. So these people, when they were acting out of fear, they made a lot of mistakes because they were in the primitive brain. They're working out of their primitive brain and not out of their prefrontal cortex. So this shows you that if we are in fear, we will not work or function at our best. We won't be our best selves. We would be just surviving. So it's kind of like I created a barrier to protect myself from the outside world, which means that I won't listen well when people ask me to do things. I will not access all the talents that I have because my prefrontal cortex is not functioning at its best. I will only do the minimum required just to get by and survive. Now, in order to, if I want to change this, I just want you to understand that an emotion is not just a feeling, it's a state. And that's why it's really important. And that's why it impacts me. And what do I mean by a state? So when I am encountering a feeling, it doesn't come alone. It comes with a lot of thoughts that come with it and make it stronger. So this is a bidirectional connection. So when I feel something, it makes me think in a certain way, and then that thought creates it intensifies the feeling even more. And even my physiology changes. Remember, there was cortisol, and cortisol is going to be, it's a hormone that impacts all my organs. So there's going to be physical changes. I'm probably going to get tense. Maybe I'm going to clench my teeth. Maybe I'm going to feel red. Maybe my heart is going to beat faster. Maybe my breathing will be shallow. All of these physical changes happen when I am in that emotional state, for example, of fear or anger or disappointment, whatever it is. Even happiness, it impacts all this. And all of these, the physical changes, the feeling, the way I am thinking and perceiving the world, all of these will impact my behavior. So if I am not emotionally intelligent and aware of this, my feeling will direct my behavior. And this is what we call an emotion-driven behavior, an emotion-driven decision. So it will impact my behavior, and my behavior will not be intentional. It's not me who is deciding the behavior. It's my emotion that is driving me. My emotional state is driving me to behave in a certain way. And that's why sometimes we say, why can't I stop this? I want to, but I can't. Why? Because I'm not understanding this whole process. Emotional intelligence allows you to understand all this process. And by the way, why do we want to understand them? Because emotions are data. Like the facts, like the scientific facts and the research that you have, it's data. It's data about the external world. This is data about the internal world. So what does emotion tell? And that's why there are no bad feelings or good feelings. They're all feelings, and they're all important to capture. A good feeling, for example, if I am enthusiastic or motivated or excited in a certain situation, this tells me that this situation means something to me. So if, we all talk about finding purpose. How do you find purpose? By noticing your emotions, your positive emotions. So when I feel fulfilled when I do something, I need to get curious about that. Oh, this makes me feel fulfilled. Maybe there's something in that is related to my purpose. So the positive emotions tell me what I like. They tell me about who I am, what I like to do, what I was created to do, what are the things that give me enjoyment and fulfillment and pleasure. At the same time, my unpleasant emotions, I don't like to call them bad because there are no bad feelings, but the negative, let's say, emotions, which people call negative emotions, those also tell me, they give me data about what are my values. How do they do that? Because, guess what? Whenever you're angry, it's because you are seeing the situation as a dishonoring to one of your values, to your priorities. Maybe your needs are not met, and that's why you're sad or you're angry or whatever. Sadness usually is because I feel like I'm losing something that I care about. So when I pay attention to that, I notice that I really care about this thing. I need to do something to keep it. I need to go an extra mile. So when I notice my sadness, it helps me understand that this thing I'm losing now, or I perceive that I'm losing, is important to me. So what am I going to do about it? So it directs my actions when I understand it, and I understand the value of the information that it's giving me and the data that it has given me. So how do we develop our EI? Now, the first step is developing our emotional self-awareness. And what does that mean? It means starting to notice your emotions. So, for example, if I ask you all to stop whatever you're doing now and put in the chat, what are you feeling this moment? What would you say? If you can put it in the chat, whoever would like to share, that would be great. What are you feeling this second? What is going on in you now? If you were to stop, take a deep breath, connect with yourself and ask yourself, what am I feeling? What would that be? I need coffee. So I hope you're not tired. I hope I'm not boring you, Derek. So you need coffee. That is a need. Where is that coming from? What are you feeling that is causing you to feel that you need coffee? Are you tired? Are you bored? So Professor DK Sharma said, happy. Excellent. I second that. Coffee makes me fresh. Okay, so it seems like you're not feeling fresh at the moment. So you're not feeling as alert as you would want to be. Great. Thank you all for putting those. So sometimes it's difficult for us. If you noticed, you said you need coffee. You said what you need, but you didn't really connect with what is the feeling that is causing that. And that's okay, because research shows that most of us are not able to notice what we are actually feeling because we're not used to it. We're used to knowing what to do and what to think, but we're not used to connecting with our emotions, and that's okay. But the more you practice, the better you get at this. And also, it's difficult for us sometimes to name it because we don't have emotional vocabulary. So I don't know what to call it. I say I need coffee, but what is it that I'm really feeling? Is it I'm feeling tired? I'm feeling bored. I'm feeling, maybe at peace. Maybe it's not a negative feeling. Maybe I'm at peace, but I feel like I don't have a lot of energy. I don't know. So going into, and there's a wheel of emotions online. You can check that out, and it will give you all these emotions. When you look at them, you feel like, oh, this is what I feel. You will be able to name them. Why do I want you to name them? Because naming your feeling allows you to regulate it. And this is what research shows. So people who have phobia from spiders, when they were able, the group that was able to name their fear and talk about it, they were able to come closer to the spider, and the physical reaction when they saw the spider was way less. So which tells us that our regulation, our self-regulation, is enhanced when we talk about the emotion. So please do not ignore that emotion. Do not think that if you are feeling scared, you are weak. That is a myth. That is not true. If you're feeling scared, that's okay. If you're feeling some self-doubt, that's okay. It's telling you something. So please look into that, acknowledge it, notice it, name it, acknowledge it, allow yourself to say what you are feeling, even if it's to yourself. You don't have to say it to everyone or on digital media, just say it to yourself that this is what I'm going through at the moment, and this is the situation, and that's how I'm feeling. Just saying that and moving through that allows you to regulate it in a better way. And the third N, and I call them the three N's so that it's easy for us to remember. So first, to become aware or increase your self-awareness, which will help you develop your emotional intelligence, notice the emotion. Second, name it. And the third thing is navigate it. And what do I mean by navigate it? If you want to control it, you need to understand what's happening. And the navigation means navigate these 4 steps, these 4 components of the emotional state. Ask yourself, okay, this is what I'm feeling. How did I know that I was feeling this way? What was different in my body for me to feel it? So for example, I'll give you an example. For me, I sometimes feel the weight on my shoulders before I feel my, let's say, anger or disappointment or frustration or overwhelm. So I feel something in my shoulders. Actually, overwhelm comes in my stomach. So I feel something in my stomach. So when I feel my stomach tense up, I start telling myself, okay, it seems like I'm feeling overwhelmed. Let me see what's going on. So sometimes the physical change precedes the rest, and you notice it. Each one of us is different. Some people notice their thoughts first. That's fine. Whatever it is, just use that to get to the other. So ask yourself, okay, what's going on? Why are these physical changes happening? Am I going through some emotion? What could I be going through? And then believe me, your unconscious mind has these answers. You might say, I don't know this, and that's okay. The first time you won't know, the second time, just take a deep breath and allow yourself to relax. And your unconscious mind will give you this information because your unconscious mind knows this. This is all happening at an unconscious level. We're not conscious of it, but our unconscious mind is aware of it. So find out, what are you feeling? What are the changes? What are you thinking? And this is very important because if I want to shift my emotional state to empower myself, I need to shift my thoughts. This is very important. I need to shift my thoughts if I want to empower myself. How do I shift my thoughts? We'll get to it in a second. And when I do that, immediately my behavior will change. So let's say, I'll give you a very silly example. Let's say I want to have chocolate and I promised myself I'm going to be healthy and I'm not going to. So, and I see myself always reaching out for chocolate. I can't resist. And then I eat and then I feel bad about myself. So if I ask myself, okay, what is that chocolate doing? What need is it satisfying? What's the feeling I'm getting before I have that chocolate? Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit anxious. And why am I feeling anxious? I don't know. Maybe when I have deadlines. Why? Why are the deadlines causing this anxiety? Well, because for me, deadlines mean I'm going to miss it. And it means I am not reliable. And it means that, I'm not going to be able to prove my worth to people. Maybe. So what does this tell me if I look into these thoughts? It tells me that reliability is something important to me. So maybe me being reliable is a value to me. Me keeping my promises is a value to me. Maybe honesty is a value to me. So it gives me information. And then I'm seeing this as, oh my God, I'm going to be dishonest. But who said that? Okay, it's a tight deadline, but I always meet my deadline. So now I'm shifting my thoughts. Who said that I'm going to be not reliable? What am I thinking? Why am I thinking that people are going to see me unworthy? Even if I miss the deadline, what's the worst case that could happen? I can just apologize and tell them, I'm sorry, I was a bit busy. I'm going to give this tomorrow and then I'll do it tomorrow. So you see, the thoughts can be catastrophic and they can be unrealistic, but we don't notice that. And they drive that feeling, and then the feeling drives the behavior. So and then I go eat chocolate just to relieve the anxiety, which is really, it's not really looking at the cause of this, because the cause of this is those thoughts that came up. So that's why I need to understand the thoughts so that I can shift them. And once you shift the thoughts, the whole feeling is shifted. You can go from a very strong, intense, unpleasant emotion to a relatively okay emotion. Maybe you're not going to be super happy, and that's okay. But when you increase the intensity, you decrease the drive of doing something that you don't want and that will not serve you. And that's why this is important. So, how do we shift that perspective? I'll just give you a few questions you can ask yourself that would, so when you get into curiosity, you shift the perspective, but you need to know, what are you thinking? So one thing you can ask yourself, is this really a threat? Because usually we're seeing it as a threat to our values. Is this really a threat to my values? Or am I catastrophizing? Is what I'm perceiving true? I can assure you most of the time it's not. It's an assumption that I'm making, because cortisol makes me make assumptions. So it pushes me to make assumptions. And those assumptions only intensify the fear more. How can I look at the situation in a different way? So how can I see it? Yes, it is a tough situation. I do have a tough deadline, but I can do it. I've always done it. I always met my deadlines. Why can't I do it now? So that's a shift in the way I'm looking. What is good about this situation? What could be a good thing about this situation? Okay, I have this tight deadline. Yeah, but if I make it, they will really see how good I am. For example, this is a chance for me to prove myself. That's another way of looking at it. What could I gain from this situation? What if it's just my fear? What could I be fearing? What's the fear here? What am I afraid of? I'm afraid to lose my reputation. I'm afraid to not be seen as reliable. These are my fears here. And what are the facts and what are the assumptions I'm making? Because as I told you, you will find that there are one or two facts. Maybe the fact is it's a tough deadline. That's it. And all the rest will be assumptions in my mind. And mind you, our brain doesn't know the difference between assumptions and reality. So it just takes it as if it's reality and it pumps up those emotions and makes me scared because it thinks that this is a threat, but it's not a threat. So in summary, emotions impact your behaviors, they impact our decisions, they impact how we relate to people, whether I speak up or not, whether I go and get introduced to this person, whether I network with these people that I need to network with. And because they impact all these things, they impact our success. So developing EI is important. It is essential if you want to grow in your leadership role. It is essential. You cannot run away from it. And how do you do that? Simply by one, pause, breathe. Even if you reacted in a way you didn't want to, it's fine. Go back, breathe, and then get curious. Use the 3 N's. Go into, okay, what made me behave in this way? What was I feeling? So notice that emotion, name the emotion, and navigate the 4 components of the emotion. And last but not least, shift your perspective. Now, one thing you can do also to shift your perspective, other than all the questions, is to try to think of a time when you were in a positive emotion. So, for example, remember a time when you were grateful. Remember a time when you were loved. Remember a time when you felt empowered. Remember a time when you felt confident. When you imagine those times and you visualize them, your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So it will think that it's there and it will create all the physical changes, all the hormonal change, and then you will shift. You will become more empowered. Why would you want to do that? Because positive emotions empower you. They make you access your prefrontal cortex. So first, calm down your amygdala, calm down that primitive brain by using the 3 N's. And then think of a time where you were in a positive situation and imagine it really strongly and very vividly. And then you will shift yourself into a more empowered state so that you can achieve what you want to achieve. If you like this topic and you want to know more, there's a free guide that you can download using this. So just scan this code and it will take you to a page where you can download the free emotional intelligence guide or lead through emotional intelligence. So please feel free to do that. And this will really help you. It's a great resource in helping you to strengthen whatever we talked here and give you more information around emotions. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your focus. If there are any questions, I don't know if I still have time. I apologize if I went overboard. If anyone has a question, I would love to address it.
Thank you for such an engaging